Hey guys, today we're going to go over a function that checks if a number is a prime number or not. And all a prime number is just a number greater than 1 that is not the product of two smaller natural numbers. So like a prime number would be something like 11 or 19 or 2. Those are all prime numbers because you can't take two smaller numbers, multiply them together and have them equal this number. Okay? So now that we've got the definition out of the way, let's just return the number just to make sure this function is working. That looks good. So the trick to this function is addressing the case of if the number equals 0, 1, and 2 first. So what we're going to do is make an if statement. Say if num equals 0 or num equals 1. We're going to want to return false because 0 and 1 are not prime numbers. Else if num equals 2, return true because number 2 is the first prime number. Else, and then now we're going to make a for loop. Let variable I equal 2 as long as I is less than num, increment I. So now inside of this for loop, I'm going to do an if statement. If, and here is like the trick of this whole algorithm, num modulo I equals 0, return false. And if this logic doesn't trip up and it runs all the way through, we want to return true because then it is a prime number. So let's walk through this for loop for a second. Why are we starting on 2? Because I is going to increment with the number until it reaches the number's value. So you can see I modulo num is going to equal 0, return false. So it's pretty much going to be incrementing the entire time. If at any point number is able to be successfully modulo to 0 with I, it's going to return false. The reason we start at 2 is because, well, if you take number modulo 0, that's going to equal not a number, because modulo means to reduce by a certain value, and you can't reduce a number by 0. That just doesn't make any sense. Likewise, if you did modulo 1, that's always going to equal 0, so it wouldn't make sense in this for loop to test for a prime number if this is always going to equal 0. And then finally, when number equals 2, that's the very first prime. That's why we have the if statement here for it. Okay, so let's just make sure this works. I have a number that's not a prime. This should return false, and it does. Let's do some prime numbers like 11, 19, and then 2. And let's try another non-prime like 10. False. Okay, cool. So this is working. This might actually have more application if you were to apply it to like an array of numbers. So let's actually do that. Let's make another function called filter primes. This is going to take an array. Let's return the array for starters. I'm going to call the function here, filter primes. Okay. I'll put in some random numbers. Oh, trying to do ES6 syntax. Whoops, okay. Okay, so there's our array of numbers. Now that we've made this function is prime, we can just call the filter method, put in a variable I, or parameter I should say, and just say is prime I. Now check how cool this is. It's going to return all the prime numbers. So if I add 10, it shouldn't show up. Likewise, if I add 19, I should see 19 in here. There it is. So you can see you can apply this function of is prime to something else, and it might be more practical. But that was just a quick run through of how to find out if a number is prime or not. I'm sure there's a million different ways to do it, but this is one that I learned. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.